Hello dear friends, welcome to a new video. Today we're gonna talk about the eclipses, the upcoming eclipse on the 21st June. And I have done this video in German. It's already on my YouTube channel. This will be also uploaded to YouTube and also to Instagram TV. It became very long in the German version, so I will cut quite a few things to make it shorter and more dense. Alright, so regarding the eclipses, I found a wonderful instructive video by, where is it here, Ernst Wilhelm. I can recommend you to watch it. So what he is saying in this video is that there are eclipse cycles, and one cycle takes 1300 years approximately, and there are several different cycles. And each cycle produces eclipse every 18 years and 11 days, plus minus. So we had an eclipse in December, that was on the 26th December, which is around when this first this corona story was starting. So this eclipse is part of this cycle 132. It's the Saros cycle. This is a Babylonian system, and that cycle started in 1208. Yes, and the eclipse we are going to have on June 21st June. This eclipse is part of the cycle 137, and that eclipse started in May 1389. So basically these cycles are, as far I understand it, when we take like here, oh wait, I can take it from here. Let's just look at cycle, excuse me. So this is like the eclipse we're going to have. So we have here the sun and moon conjunct. Of course it's in dark moon, Amavasya, and together with Rahu, and that is an eclipse. So whenever we have the sun and the moon conjunct together near Rahu or Ketu, then we get an eclipse, and they must be near around 15 degrees. So what happens with such a cycle is that at this day, the first time this Amavasya was close enough to Rahu to have a slight eclipse. So that is the start of the cycle, and as the cycle progresses, Rahu always become nearer and nearer and nearer the sun until it is in front of the sun and goes further and further away. So if we see this eclipse cycle, it's a partial eclipse, it becomes total, and then in the end again partial. Okay, so this is the idea of these eclipse cycles, and what is important to know about this is that the eclipses of one cycle, they always have the same topic, so the same energy that is around that eclipse. So to see what is the topic of that eclipse, or what this eclipse will bring about, we have to consider the very first eclipse where it started. Like for instance, if you want to see what happens in a year, on the first month of the first day of the year, we make a chart, and then we can understand what the year will bring, something like that. So similarly, what this eclipse cycle will bring, we can see from this first eclipse. And since it starts with a very slight partial eclipse that is very short, and it becomes denser and then undense, that means that what this cycle promises, the fruit of it will be strongest in the middle, which is actually in fact now. This cycle will have its maturation in the next eclipse after this one, which will be in 2038. So we're gonna have our eclipse here 2020, June 21, and this cycle will have its maturation in this 2038. So whatever we're gonna see from this promise which is given here, we will see the full sway of it in this eclipse and in the next eclipse. So I hope this is clear. So to make things a bit more clear and more interesting, we are not only going to analyze the eclipse we are going to have in the 21st June, we are also going to look at the eclipse that happened in December, because that is what we have experienced already in the last 6 months. It was very intense experience for everyone due to the worldwide lockdown and so on. So I believe we will learn much more about how eclipses work and what they bring about if we analyze both of these eclipses. So from the experience from the last eclipse, we can more or less have a better feel what is going to happen with the coming eclipse. So let's get into it. So I have been prepared here the charts. And by the way, this took me 3 days to analyze all these charts. We're going to look at 4 charts, the beginning of both the cycles, plus both eclipses from December and the eclipse now. So we're going to analyze 4 charts. I'm trying to make it very condensed and comprehensive, to not take too much of your time. And as always, I'm always trying to be very educational. I don't want to just entertain people. I want to really, people should learn something. This is always my aim in my whole, all my postings on the YouTube and on Instagram. I want to share knowledge. So therefore, yeah. So I just don't want to leave you with some kind of something, but really also want to explain you how you can understand this by the planetary placements. So if you compare the video of Ernst Wilhelm with mine, it will be very much different. 2 reasons are there, because firstly I use sidereal, Ernst Wilhelm uses tropical zodiacs, which is according to my opinion not a big deal. Both works, it's just a bit a different angle to look at it. And also I'm going to use a new technique. I have never shown this to anyone before. This is the first time I'm using the technique with Muhurtas. And this I learned from my teacher. By the way, my teacher's website is here. It's in Russian, but you can translate it. And my teacher, he's a student of the Brigu Sampradaya, which is where you can see Parampara here. Parampara means disciplic succession. Actually, Vedic knowledge is always given down from master to student by direct physical association and learning. And so my teacher Arya Brigu, he is part of this Brigu Manu Sampradaya, coming from the sage Brigu and the Manu, which is the forefather of mankind. So he has access to scriptures that usually public doesn't has. Like he has more access to Parashara Hora Shastra than other people. He has more access to different type of Jyotish Shastra, which is not publicly available. So therefore also the technique I'm going to show you to use now is something you will not find anywhere else on the YouTube or in the internet. You can even Google it, you will not find it, because it's just simply not public. And this technique is using Muhurtas. What is public regarding Muhurtas is about the auspicious timing. So like this Muhurta is good for that, this Muhurta is good for this, to start something. But how to use Muhurtas for reading a birth chart, that is the specialty of now this Brigu's style of astrology. So there are 30 Muhurtas, and each Muhurta lasts for 48 minutes. So 48 minutes into 30 will be 24 hours. And they are not only they always have ruling deity. It's quite similar to Nakshatras, the way we're using Muhurtas. And they also what is the specialty now of the using is that each degree of the zodiac, each degree of we have these 12 zodiacs. This is 360 degrees. Each zodiac is 30 degrees of the ecliptic, and each degree is associated with one Muhurta. So the first degree from 0 to 1 is associated with the first Muhurta, Rudra Muhurta. Then the second degree from 1 to 2 degrees, that space between 1 and 2 degrees, that second degree is associated with the second Muhurta, Ahi, and so on. So where is the placement of the planets? Accordingly, they are associated with a Muhurta, according to the degree. And also the time of the day is naturally associated with a Muhurta. Every 48 minutes the Muhurta changes. So if we are born in the 1 hour after sunrise, so that will be in the second Muhurta we are born. So accordingly, the time of birth, that Muhurta will be very significant. And the Muhurtas, they have rulers, and this is for each weekday different. So it's not always fixed that this Muhurta has this planetary ruler. It is depending on the weekday. But this type of details we can also discuss other videos. However, now we're going to analyze this cycle, Saros cycle 132, which began in the 12th century, or in the 13th century, better say. And recently we had an eclipse of this cycle in December, which more or less was the beginning of whole this corona thing we have experienced for the last 6 months. So let's get started. So first of all, the sun is in its own house in Leo, and it is in the 16th degree, which is associated with the Girisha Muhurta, which means literally the Lord of Mountains, and that is about achieving high success, going high above, achieving a height. It's about success and height. So I would say this shows a lot of ambition, and the sun in its own house, Leo, which is about kingdom, which is about establishing kingdom, establishing a certain way of life, something like that, establishing countries. So this cycle has definitely to do with bringing some new orders to life, new ways of life. And I'm saying new because Ketu and Rahu, Ketu and Rahu are always in the same degree, and Ketu is causing this eclipse, is in the Vayu Muhurta. It's in the 30th degree. I mean, it's in 29 degrees and something. So it's in the 30th degree, which is the Vayu Muhurta, associated with the Vayu Muhurta, which is about movement. Vayu is the god of wind, so it's movement, bringing something new. Yeah, so it brings movement into the ambitious king, in ambitious desires for a new kingdom, let's say. So I said it like this: successful establishment, of a new order from state to family unit. So why I said like that? This is because family unit from the state, because it is involving the sun and the sun's sign Leo, and family unit because it is happening in the Purva Falguni Nakshatra, which is ruled by the Lord Bhaga, which has to do with family harmony, family happiness, and so on. So it's a very, very family oriented. So it brings like a change, a new orders, Vayu, Ketu in Vayu, to the state, Leo, and also family. Yeah, so this is, and also I say it's successful because we have two planets in the Abhichit, in the 8th degree, which is connected to the Abhichit Muhurta, which is about success and achievements. And also Girisha shows ambition and achievements. Yeah. Now what else? We have to see that this is an exact time where exactly the sun... where we are? Sorry. Here. We are in an exact time where exactly the sun and the moon were conjunct. So that is different daytimes and the different places of the world. So if we are, let's say, in Berlin, which is for Germany, Middle Europe, that time the Lagna, the sign in the eastern horizon, was Libra. The Hora Lord was Mars, and the Muhurta was Vaira, which is about facing enemies, overcoming obstacles, taking revenge, hostility, and things like that. And the ascendant is in the third degree, which is friendship. Then for Beijing, for China, we will bring the Muhurtas Aryama, which is about matchmaking, coming together. And Venus is the ruling planet of Aryama, which is in good luck. And Vayu is brings a lot of movement and change in the, according to ascendant degree. Then for Washington, which will be for North America, United States particularly, there will be associated austerities, hardships connected to Saturn, to the people, and Vidatri is distribution. So these Muhurtas is very interesting. They are also showing like the paths of life. Like the first Muhurta Rudra is about birth, the second Ahi, the serpents, is about the navel cord, and then the third Mitra is about the friends who help in the delivery process. Then in the later Muhurtas we have one time the Yama Muhurta, it's like the 26th or 27th, something like that. It's about death, and after that we get this Vidatri Muhurta, which is about that you will get the fruits of your actions. After that you reap the fruits of your deeds, and that is this distribution, so Vidatri. So we can see that this we are talking here about the cycle which was creating the corona situation in the world, so to say. And so it will bring a new order to life, which affects the state up down to the family unit, and the changes are very profound, very forceful. It's Vayu, and very successful, without fail. Really, the change is there. And yes. And now for Berlin, for Europe, Germany, it is more. There will be a lot of quarrel with the government, a lot of enmity towards the government. The people will feel. But also doing so, they make new friendships. So this is what happening. What is like the basic. The subtle state of mind of the people, so to say, in Berlin. I as far as I understand, this eclipses, they are working on a very, very subtle level, and of course they bring about also big events, but I think it's more about pressing the people for developing their mind and consciousness, pushing forward the consciousness of the people. So but of course, because the occurrences, or I would say the events in the political field and public field, they're also based on the consciousness. So therefore also they infect, of course, the events. But I think mainly what we are talking about here with these eclipses is really a very subtle level. Okay. Now we are talking about the different flavors for the different parts of the world. So for Beijing, I wrote down here, it will be more like Venus. I consider it like the Lord of Libra, it is about trading and business, that they are having a lot of change in the way they're doing business and getting many new business partners. So for China, it seems like this whole event was rather a big moving forward in the way they're doing business. For Europe, especially the Germany, it is more like getting really enemical to the government. So that we can see also in the freedom movement, and the demonstrations became very profound, and the critic of the government became very strong. And in Washington, it is more concerning the Saturnian, means the people in general. There will be a lot of austerity for the people in the US, and more or less the deeds of the last centuries, or the last decades, are shown now. I mean, as much the government neglected infrastructure in the US, now the fruit of that is really felt by the people, or the lack of healthcare system, or the lack or the good, both, will be really shown, and people will really experience that. So that is what more or less happened in the last 6 months, kick-started by this Saros cycle 132. If particular, let's just jump to this. This is the eclipse that really happened then in December. So now we have to consider this eclipse in the context of this new way of life. And what it brings also, we can see Jupiter is in the Nirita degree, which is disaster. So we can see the schools shut down, it was a disaster for the children. The financial system crashed, it is a disaster. Then it happened in the Mula Nakshatra, which brings a lot of misery and distress. And we will also talk about the Ardra Nakshatra later, because the eclipse this time will be in the Ardra Nakshatra. Last time the eclipse was in the Mula Nakshatra. So they are both like these very vicious nakshatras. But there I would like to address that there are two ways to look at these nakshatras. Because the Ardra Nakshatra, it is bringing destruction, but in a higher sense, for people who are spiritually evolved, I would say, or let's say not like that. The Ardra Nakshatra, in the context of spirituality, in the context of spiritual evolvement, brings destruction of illusion. Because before Ardra we have Mrigashira, before Mrigashira we have Rohini. And Rohini is that nakshatra that brings this allurement of the female. I mean, for the man it's the female, for the female is maybe the man. I guess so, I'm not a female, but for a man, the female figure, the female beauty, the female attraction is very, very strong, and it completely bewilders the mind of a man, the female beauty. And that is expressed in the Rohini Nakshatra. And it happened in the creation that Lord Brahma, he's that God, the first created living being, who then brings everything into manifestation. Everything is already there, created by Lord Vishnu in the subtle form, but Lord Brahma brings these things then into manifestation. And at this one point, he got very much bewildered by the beauty of his daughter, the Saraswati, and was chasing after her. And she was taking the form of a deer, and he was chasing after her in the form of the deer. And that deer is the symbol of Mrigashira. So we have this enchantment that is created. We can talk about these nakshatra stories another time in depth. We can go through all the 27. But the enchantment was created, and then the mind becomes bewildered and starts searching in Mrigasira. And what happened according to the story is that Lord Rudra, Lord Shiva, in the form of Rudra, he then killed the deer, Lord Brahma, to protect him from this shame of not chasing after one's daughter. In the state of bewilderment. So Ardra is the Rudra, that hunter who comes and destroys this illusion. So similarly, Mula, is the first nakshatra of the third 9 nakshatras. The nakshatras are divided into 3 groups. The first 9, the second 9, and the last 9. And the last 9, according to my understanding, they show the way of ascension. The first 9, they show the path of creation. And the second, they show the life on earth. And the third, they show the way of ascension. So before we give up this world and ascend to a higher state, the illusion of this world has to be destroyed, and we have to come to the roots of the being. So this is Mula Nakshatra. So for people who are affine or have affinity for spiritual growth and going further, Mula Nakshatra will more indicate destruction of the illusion, destruction of the temporary nonsensical world, which is actually not needed. But in the gross, of course, if somebody is attached to this illusion, he will experience this Mula and Ardra Nakshatra as very cruel and gruesome. Though for a spiritualist it is not, it is purifying. So, that being said, we have here this December eclipse, which was the beginning of this Corona crisis. We have the happening in the Mula Nakshatra. So this is also will be the conclusion of this video, is that it's a kind of a polarizing for those people who are ready to go a step further in the spiritual development. For them, this is a catalyst for growth and going deeper. And for those who are materialistic, it will be rather a downfall. So it's kind of a separation of the crop and the straw, something like that. And this is also becoming evident in the eclipse of the 21st June. We're going to talk about that also. So we have this Nirita, destruction of the sun and moon are in this Mula Nakshatra. Vahi, transportation. So all the transportation was stopped. International flight was stopped. I wanted to fly to Switzerland, I could not. Transportation was stopped. And also, again, we have this Bhaga coming, which we had in the cycle had the Bhaga in the Purva Falguni Nakshatra. We have here again this family concern, family happiness. So I was saying more time for family. So this is also again depending. Some families that can deal with the children well, they had a great time with their kids at home, and others they might have had a horrible time, I don't know. I had a great time. Though for the kids it's a bit hard to not see their friends, I guess. Yeah, my son agrees. Yeah. So then regarding this different areas, because they have a different ascendant, they will have a different starting Muhurta. So for Germany will bring a lot of hardship, and yeah, for Beijing, for China, this crisis again will bring a lot of unity among the people and desire for change and upgrade. And for the United States, it will bring a lot of disaster. And yeah, which we saw in the end of this cycle. I mean, before now, this last, the new eclipse comes, we have this big destruction in the streets of Washington. So this might be also shown that this sun eclipse was indicating judgment day type conditions and disasters. Alright, so here we go. Now we go for the... we finished the discussion of the eclipse in December. Now we're gonna see what are the promises for the eclipse in June. So this is started part of the solar cycle 131. Oh, one thing I forgot. This cycle, which was bringing us the coronavirus, I did some small research in the last century what happened around the eclipses of this cycle. To do this justice, actually I would really have to study history very roughly from the beginning of the cycle, which is a bit above my capability, or capacity I would say, not capability but capacity. And we had like on the 22nd October 1911 an eclipse, and on the 10th October, so around this eclipse, we had the revolution that led to the founding of the China Republic. Then in the 29th November 1st we had eclipse, and just 3 days before the big stock market crash was there and the Great Depression in the beginning of the 30s came. So this is definitely in the light of new way of life, a new establishing a new order of life. Both these were very definitely going that direction. And then we had in November 12th an eclipse, 1947, and at that time the United Nations, they declared the separation of Palestine and Israel. And in 2001, just shortly after the eclipse, the euro started. So we can see it has to do with establishing new ways of life, change that really affects the state and also the families, the family life strongly. All right. So now we're going to discuss the cycle, which will hit us this month on the 21st of June. Solar cycle 137 started in June 2nd in the 14th century. So this has quite a different story. We have here Saturn in an enemy house in Leo, means the people in the degree of the Vishwa Nakshatra unity will come together and are in his enemy house. The people are in the house of the king. So in the establishment of the social orders, there will be a kind of a disruption because people come together. So which we are having now, don't we? And then we have the sun in his enemy house also. So the government is really in a bad situation. But the moral of the people, the moon is in exaltation, so it's quite supporting still. And the nakshatra it's happening in is Mrigashira, which is really, we're looking for solution, we're looking for something new, we're looking for a solution for these things. And what is very interesting for me regarding this eclipse cycle is that practically besides the moon, only Mercury is planet that is really well situated, strong in his own house. Mars is in debilitation, Saturn in enemy house, Jupiter in enemy house, Venus is just neutral, his lord is in debilitation, Sun is in a enemy house, the moon is in exaltation, good. So basically the moral is quite strong. People are not weak moral, which we'll see, like people are quite strong opinion, they are believing what they're saying, what they're doing, and so on. So there is no doubt there's not much doubt. Though there is not much hope, Jupiter, not much hope in like the legal system, not much hope in the financial system, but the moral is quite good, Moon. Plus Mercury, and Mercury is in the Ahirbudnya. I mean, this is the 18th degree, which is connected to the 18th Muhurta, which is the Ahirbudnya Muhurta. That is, just from the top of my mind, I don't remember. Ahirbudnya is some Uttara Padrapada or Purva Padrapada Nakshatra, same deity. And this is connected to the Shesha, Ananta Shesh. Ananta Shesh is that divine serpent, which according to the Vedic understanding of the universe is at the bottom and sustains the whole universe. Somewhere I read also, but I will have to confirm that again, but is that the gravity is a function of this Shesha, Ananta Shesh, this divine serpent. But basically it means it is really on the ground of the universe. So the questioning, somebody will be blessed by this Muhurta, or also the nakshatra like Uttara Purva Padrapada. They will be very looking for deep answers, the deep understanding. They want to know what is underground, why things are like they happen. You know, like we will be a scientist like Newton who was so much deeply thinking about what is this gravity, how to use it, what it is, and where it comes from, and so on. This type of thoughts, this type of deep thoughts about life are there. So this seems to me quite prominent. So what I said about this, it is a disruption of the kingdom. People will come, and from the people and the parliament, from Venus attacking the sun, Saturn attacking the sun because in Leo, and it is in the tapas, connected to tapas Muhurta, the sun, which is austerities. It will bring austerities to the government and thus also to all the people. But very strong is this questioning. One thing also I noted is the Mars is in debilitation, means Mars is a warrior, and if he's in exaltation, then he will be like a knight who fights for the fights the true war, you know, for the good. But Mars being in debilitation, then he will lose his knighthood and just becomes a nasty soldier who just backstabs and just plunders. So anyway, plunders, I said it happens. So more Martian activities which will be connected to this cycle will be of nasty character. I mean, basically to go to fight for right, to fight for justice is a good thing, it's a glorious thing. But in the name of justice, on fighting, going and breaking other people's properties and stealing, that is a nasty thing. So Mars in being in debilitation can show that. So basically what we can consider that Martian activities means police activities, military activities, fighting activities. All these things are happening around this cycle, which is happening now in this 21st June, will be of nasty character. All right. Let's talk about yogas. I didn't talk about this in the German video. It's about yogas is the combination between the sun and the moon is something similar to nakshatras, and they are showing what type of qualities will be developed or has to be developed, and they're always ruled by a planet, so Jupiter rules it. So that means people will have to become really endure pain. They have to learn to endure pain. They have to be sharp, and just that is what is going to be needed. People will be needed to endure pain, which they will not be so much happy to do because Jupiter is not in a good placement here. Okay, and regarding the different coloring of the different places, interesting is for the German, this questioning of the reason and why and where we come from is doubled up, because in Berlin at this time the Ahirbunya Muhurta was also prevailing, and it's Lord Venus, and also the ascendant is connected to the Pitri Muhurta, which is about ancestors. So in Germany, this eclipse will bring questioning about what is our rightful claim as of government. I mean, who are we as a people and how we want to live? And I mean, in Germany, the thing is that they have never gotten their independence back since the Second World War. They are still, so to say, officially, they're still under occupation of Russia and America and the USA. They have not yet gotten back their independence. So these type of questions might become very strong up. So things. So this eclipse will really kickstart these emotions in Germany. So for China, again, I'm not so much knowing the news of China, so it's very difficult also to put this into relation, to read this in. But what I wrote, they make new friends and get new life, something like that. Anyway, I'm not so much can say about China because my mind is not about them. In Washington, we can see a lot of change will come. Rohini is upgrade, betterment, a lot of really change, and government really has to change their ways. They have to bring new ideas and so on. So what I would say for Washington, this cycle will bring more for that due to the pressure and the unity of the people, government will have to upgrade themselves. They have to change. It just cannot go on like this. All right, and now we're going to the actual eclipse on the 21st. And as we already talked about the Mula Nakshatra, like interesting, the last eclipse was in the Mula Nakshatra. This eclipse now is in Ardra Nakshatra. And and as I said, for those spiritually minded, it will bring a more awakening. But also not even those who are spiritually minded, but like the illusion of will fall away. Whatever illusion they might be in, might be they're thinking, those in the stock market, they're thinking soon everything will go up and normal again. The central bank, the Federal Reserve will put money in and everything will work and it will continue. So this type of illusions, they will be scattered, will be destroyed by this Ardra Nakshatra, and people will become disillusioned. Basically what I say, this is the good thing of the Ardra Nakshatra. The bad thing is that there might be really destruction, as we see it's happening, a lot of destruction. And that is also again emphasized by Ketu and Rahu. I mean, Rahu and Ketu, they're always in the same degree. So Rahu, who causes the eclipse, is in the Vaira is connected to the Vaira Muhurta, which is about enmity. I mean, fighting, and it can mean that there will be fighting. It also can mean that we have to face enemies and learn how to deal with them. And the sun and the moon are in the unity Vishwa Nakshatra, Muhurta. People, Saturn in success, and Venus in Varuna, knowledge. Okay, so basically what I wrote here. So we have to keep in mind that this is a part of that Saros cycle 137, which is in the context of disruption, hopelessness, but also this deep questioning and the strength of spirit and mind. So people will come together. We have Vishwa Muhurta for the sun and moon. In Gemini, in the cities, people will come together, and there will be hostility and quarrel. Yeah. Then, but I would say that in this time it will rather kickstart that people will get their way and the government has to follow, because Saturn is in a Abhichit, is in a success Muhurta, and Saturn here is also quite strong. Is retrograde planets are really quite strong. It's in his own house, and also in the Saros cycle we saw that Saturn was in Leo, which is disrupting the government. So now the people are in success. So I believe that really what will bring it will bring a lot of change to the government, because people, they really can get their ways. Okay. So for Berlin, there will be a lot of healing. Savitri Muhurta is there. New inspiration will come, and this impulse will come from the people, Saturn. So really the people, they can come together and make something heal. But there is, of course, also destruction will be there, and tension will be there. This is seen by the transits and so on, but this I can talk about another. But in general, let's say the metaphysical impulse is given that healing can happen, especially in Germany. And for Beijing, Varuna is there. People will become more aware, and they might become a little bit revengeful to the government. Anyway, as I said, I'm not too much connected to China, therefore difficult for me to say anything about it. US is easier, because US we know the news, I speak English and so on. So what I'm very happy to see is that it looks good for the US, because Vishnu Muhurta is there, which is about maintenance. So what this eclipse will bring for the US, it will, all this thing, as I said, it will bring revenge, it will bring upgrade to the government, it will bring change to the government, people will get their ways. There will be like destruction will be there, and disillusionment will be there, but this eclipse will kickstart also that after all the status quo will be maintained with all the changes done, and Washington and United States will not fall apart, at least not in this area. We don't know about longer way, like 55 years, 10 years, not, but I mean among this year, next year, I believe elections will take place, and kind of it will be the situation will be contained, and there will be new alliances formed among the politicians, among the people, among the leaders of the communities. They will somehow come together and contain the situation. And okay. One thing I forgot to mention is that this cycle, which we are going to see the eclipse now, was connected to the Titanic. This cycle had an eclipse on the 17th April, just 3 days before Titanic got hit by the iceberg. So around these days was anyway, there is some theories about that, but anyway, we're not going to get into that. Then here's also a strike of the gold miners. So we can see how the Saturn was rising up against the authority. People were rising up against authority. There, I have not seen the chart for this particular eclipse, but I suggest that most probably Saturn was not in a good place, so that the government really overthrew them, which is now not the case. Now it's rather the case that government will take beatings from the people in today's eclipse. So we see here, then Gandhi started civil unrest around this nakshatra, this eclipse cycle. It's not exactly, it's like 20 days before, but nevertheless it's around that time. He was also arrested the months later. So we can also see again this uprising of the people against the government is there. Then Israel establishes. So we saw that the beginning of this establishment of Israel was started in the previous cycle, which was about establishing something new, and here is more about disruption. So that Israel declared independence is more a disruption to the area, and there was immediately a war because of that. And in 1966, we have the Communist Party in China begun the Cultural Revolution. So it's again disruption of the status quo, disruption of the government. So something like that we can expect for this eclipse. For Germany, I believe it will be more rather going into questioning their rightfulness of the government, and they want to have their independence after so many years of the war. They want to have really run their own institution. There will be a lot of tensions everywhere with government and the people. In Washington, I think a status quo will be maintained, new alliances will be formed. Okay, so thank you very much for listening. I tried to do this condensed as possible. It took me three days to research that, so therefore the video becomes very long, and I believe I didn't just speak something random. And you will see from me more about this Muhurta type of astrology, Brigumohism astrology. And definitely stay tuned. If you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe, comment, like, share, get it out there. If you watch it on Instagram, in IGTV, yeah, please keep following. If you have friends who care to know something, share my account, because for me, I just want to share knowledge. And I believe knowledge, especially Vedic knowledge, is the birthright of every living being on this planet, and it should be free, and everyone should get access to it. All right, in that sense, I wish you all the best. I wish you enlightening eclipses, and stay tuned for more hot content from me.